So hello everyone again, and welcome to the University of Delaware College and Career Showcase. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll learn about some opportunities to take your Envirothon knowledge to the next level. My name is Stephanie Toller, and I'm the NCF-Envirothon Education Specialist. As you may know, at the international level, the Envirothon program is sponsored by the National Conservation Foundation, or NCF for short. The National Conservation Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit with a mission to develop the next generation of conservation leaders through educational programs like the Envirothon. I myself am an Envirothon alumna. I competed in my state's competition throughout middle school and high school, and went on to compete at the international level twice. Envirothon helped to cultivate my love of nature and the environment, and it exposed me to a wide range of career possibilities in this field. Envirothon taught me to see things holistically, and I delighted in studying how all the different aspects of an ecosystem are connected. My passion for ecology shaped my college search and what majors I thought about pursuing. My experiences in Envirothon were at the forefront of my scholarship interviews and application essays, with competition placements rounding out my college application resume. I pursued undergraduate studies in the curriculum for the environment and ecology at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill on a merit scholarship. I double majored with a BS in environmental science and a BA in Italian and a minor in marine sciences. My experiences with Envirothon put me way ahead of my fellow students, even within my major, and I was taking graduate level courses during my freshman year. During my undergraduate studies, I had so many opportunities to use and expand upon the knowledge that I learned in Envirothon through some fantastic courses and field experiences. I studied field ecology in the Rocky Mountains, where I put my tree identification skills to use from my background in forestry with Envirothon. Principles of aquatic ecology were essential in my study of coral reef ecosystems in the Caribbean, particularly in relation to aquatic food webs and coral conservation. I studied volcanoes in Italy, where my experience with horizonating soil profiles enabled me to better identify differing layers of volcanic deposits and construct a geologic history of past eruptions. I did a research project on field geology in California, looking at how mineral composition and parent material affects the composition of soils that develop from them. Current environmental issues featured prominently in my time in the Galapagos Islands, where I studied the impact of conservation systems on local inhabitants. I got to see the principles I had studied in wildlife firsthand while witnessing the adaptations of the tortoises and other animals living on the islands. I also studied marine ecology and the impact of illegal shark fishing in the Galapagos. I wrote and successfully won a fellowship proposal to do an internship at a marine science lab in Venice, Italy, the summer between my sophomore and junior year. I also did research and wrote an honors thesis on salinity tolerance in cyanobacteria and its implications for their expansion into estuaries in a changing climate. I used my public speaking skills from the oral presentation to present my research at a conference my senior year. After undergrad, I went on to graduate studies in biology at Duke University, specializing in ecology and science education. Since getting my master's, I've followed my passion for teaching others about the environment, eventually coming to work for Envirothon, the amazing program that started it all. The right college program can set you up with the tools to succeed in your future career. The courses you take and connections you make can provide you with wonderful experiences, both during your undergraduate studies and beyond. If you're still undecided about your major, picking a college that has a lot of options in the area you're interested in will give you the freedom to explore and know that you'll be set up for success no matter what you choose. With 13 different majors in the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, the University of Delaware has diverse opportunities ranging from environmental and resource economics to insect ecology and conservation, programs that are not found at every university. Tonight, you will hear from 3 different University of Delaware departments about their academic opportunities, as well as fellow Envirothon alumni currently studying there. Again, on behalf of the NCF-Envirothon, thank you for being here tonight. Also, good luck at your state or provincial Envirothon competitions this spring. I hope to see you all in Ohio in July for the 2022 NCF-Envirothon Annual International Competition. And now I'll turn things over to Noel Wahar with the University of Delaware.
Thank you, Stephanie. We appreciate it. And I enjoyed hearing more about your experience as an Envirothon participant and how that has directed where you have ended up personally and professionally. I think that's an amazing example of the benefits of participation in an activity like Envirothon. This evening, I have the pleasure of introducing some University of Delaware faculty members, current students, and alumni who are going to talk about their individual experiences and departments and majors that are very closely aligned with the values and the benefits of Envirothon participation. I'm hoping that current students who are on this evening will learn more about some of the unique opportunities that we offer, and educators who are on this evening will learn more about additional opportunities for your students where they can engage their interests in the environment and then apply them to very unique, unusual majors that are hands-on and engaging and very interesting and lead to really unusual and outstanding career opportunities. So with that being said, rather than me trying to introduce all of our panelists this evening, because I couldn't possibly capture their skills and attributes, I'm going to ask each individual to introduce him or herself. So let's start with Dr. Kyle McCarthy. Dr. McCarthy, will you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. And am I just introducing myself and not our majors at the moment?
Just yourself, Dr. McCarthy.
Well, nice to see everyone. I'm Dr. McCarthy. I am a wildlife ecologist. I primarily study big cats, and so snow leopards, jaguars, tigers. Those are things on the current docket. Sometimes small cats slip into like bobcats and clouded leopards and other things that I've been involved in as well. And I'm our undergraduate program coordinator for the wildlife ecology and conservation major, as well as the insect ecology and conservation major, which I will talk to you about soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. McCarthy. Dr. Meng, please, if you'll introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Qingwu Meng, and I'm an assistant professor of controlled environment horticulture in the Department of Plant and Soil Sciences here at the University of Delaware. And I'm here to introduce you to our major called Sustainable Food Systems. And here we have a lot of opportunities for undergraduate students to not engage in active learning, but to take the learning into research and future careers, both in academia and industry. And what I research on specifically is to see how we can optimize different environmental factors such as light, temperature, and carbon dioxide to make sure that we put in the right resources efficiently to benefit plant growth so we can have sustainable food supplies continuously, especially in urban areas. So I'm here really excited to talk to you about what we have to offer in our major and some of the problems that we're trying to tackle.
Thank you very much. Dr. Heinzman, please.
Thank you, Noel. My name is Martin Heinzelman. I'm the chair of the Department of Applied Economics and Statistics here at the University of Delaware. And I'm especially excited tonight because I am an Envirothon alumnus. I did Envirothon throughout high school and competed in the state and national Envirothon. And it was really formative in my career. I remember, as I was heading home from the National Envirothon, thinking about how I was going to be able to apply everything I had learned about environmental science and combine it with my interest in economics. And that's what I've managed to do with my career. I'm an environmental economist by training, and by my research, what environmental economics does, as we'll talk about, is think about how we can apply the models of economics to study human behavior as it applies to environmental issues and policy, and come up with solutions. And so I'll talk about primarily about our environmental and natural resource economics major here at the University of Delaware.
Great, thank you very much. Maggie, you're up.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie Zarzaski. I'm a sophomore here at UD, and I major in sustainable food systems, and I'm also in the interdisciplinary ag and natural resources program.
Thanks. Thank you. Laura Taylor, if you could introduce yourself to us, please.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Taylor. I'm a senior here at the University of Delaware, and I'm double majoring in economics and environmental and resource economics with a minor in statistical data analytics.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And last but certainly not least, Katie Gunderman, can you please introduce yourself to us?
You're muted, Katie.
You're on mute, Katie.
Oh, I've been away from Zoom for too long. Sorry about that. I am Katie Gunderman. I am a UD alum. I graduated in 2017 with a degree in wildlife ecology and conservation. And since I've worked as a wildlife technician on a variety of projects, research projects and monitoring projects. And currently I am in my second year of my master's in wildlife and fisheries studies at Penn State University. And I am also an Envirothon alum. So I'm very excited to be talking to everybody today.
That's great. Thank you very much. And I think in my excitement, I may have forgotten to introduce myself fully to you all in terms of my role with this. I am the Associate Director of Undergraduate Recruitment for the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources at UD. So that's why I'm here this evening as a part of this event. And in a minute, I'll drop my information into the chat in case anyone is interested in reaching out to me directly. With all that being said, if we could bring up the presentation and get started with our formal part of the presentation this evening, that'd be great.
All right. Looks like I'm on deck first to talk about environmental and resource economics. So thank you. So this is the Department of Applied Economics and Statistics, and we like to describe ourselves as being at the intersection of people, problems, and solutions. We used to just talk about being at the intersection of people and problems, and maybe that was leaving out an important aspect of also trying to solve those problems. And really what we do in environmental and resource economics is we think about observing how people behave and how that behavior impacts and is affected by the systems that we live in. And then using data that we can gather both from experimental and real world settings to observe, to understand behavior and to look at impacts and inform policy solutions for environmental problems. And I want to say, actually, you can go to the next slide. So environmental and resource economics, as I mentioned, is one of three majors, and it's probably the most relevant for today's conversation. Applying economic principles to the many and varied environmental natural resources issues facing our society today and into the future. And I think, many people probably don't realize or know what environmental economics is. And really the idea is that what we're thinking about is a series of questions. Why do we have environmental issues? What is the right level of environmental quality? What is the right level of pollution? How do we balance the benefits and costs of environmental policy or mitigating pollution, right? And to do that, we have to think about how do we measure the benefits and costs of pollution or the benefits and costs of environmental policies. And that's really the focus of this major, is to understand that series of questions and think about how we come to this optimization, to this really huge optimization problem, especially when we start thinking about things like climate change, of figuring out what is the right amount of climate change, right? I mean, that's a scary question to ask, right? And then how do we get there? What's the right policy, right mix of policies that's going to be the best option for us as a society, balancing the benefits and costs of all the different parameters that we have to manage. So really what the major amounts to is it is an economics major with a really strong environmental focus. And so that's the sort of main major that we'll talk about today. So next slide. In that major, we have 2 concentrations that allow you to focus your interest depending on your particular focus. So you can do a natural resource management or economics of sustainability and policy. Those are the 2 concentrations. Both of them are going to have a methodological and analytical focus. So it's really important to know that in this major, it's not just about the topic area expertise that you're going to leave with, but about the skills that you're gathering, right? So you're going to get a lot of skills in data analysis, geographical information systems, communications. You're going to public policy analysis. You're going to get those skills. And whether you end up staying within the field of environmental economics or going a different direction, you're still going to have those skills moving forward. A big focus of our department in particular, which is really unique to the University of Delaware, is our focus on experimental methods, which is where we bring people into a lab and have them engage in interactive simulations of different, I want to say games isn't quite the right word, but different strategic situations to understand how people behave, how they make choices under uncertainty and risk, and see if we can derive from those interactions, those experimental interactions, what we can derive about behavior in the, quote, real world. Going back just a second to those 2 concentrations, I just want to mention the difference between them. The natural resource management concentration focuses, you're going to get your basic economics and some public policy and geographic information systems, but then you're also going to get a strong core of basic science, ecology. So you're going to spend some time with some of Kyle's classes, for instance, right? Some land and water management, and as well in that natural resource management concentration, whereas the sustainability and policy concentration is going to be much more focused on, as its name implies, you're going to take more economics classes, a deeper level of economics, some economic development classes, developing nations, and more on the public policy side. So that's really the difference between those 2 concentrations. Next slide. And throughout all of those courses, as you go through the major, you're going to be exposed to a whole host of environmental topics, from climate change, land use issues, across the board, agriculture, conservation, all things that you've already been exposed to as part of your participation in Envirothon. And these are going to be interwoven throughout your curriculum in our major. And you're going to be not just learning about the problems, but also thinking about the policy solutions and how we can solve these problems at least cost to maximize the benefit to society. So with that, I want to turn it over to one of our star senior students, Laura Taylor, who can talk a little bit about the student perspective on this major.
Yeah, sure. So hi again, everyone. Just as a little reminder, my name is Laura. I'm an environmental and resource economics major here at the university. And what kind of got me initially interested in the major, I would say, was when I was in high school. I took my AP Environmental Science class, and we actually did a project that worked on like redesigning or reconstructing a quarry. And with that, we had to kind of design a space that involved aspects of like businesses and restaurants and residential areas, but also keep in mind more sustainable focus. So that kind of really got me interested in finding a major that was really at the intersection of sustainability and environment and business. And this major has really exposed me to a lot of different economic concepts to solve environmental problems. So you take a lot of classes ranging from sustainable development, data analytics, I've taken some policy classes, some ethics classes, some classes in ArcGIS, which is Geographical Information Systems. So you are taking a lot of classes that involve economics and environmental decisions, but you also get a really good background and in like the economics field and how that can be applied to different environmental things. So you have a lot of opportunities to work in a variety of different fields, I feel like, after you graduate. And you also get a lot of opportunities to get involved in the college as well and get really close with your professors. So for me, I joined as a research assistant. So I've been working with one of my professors on a research project. And there you get to really solve real world problems, and be able to learn more that way of things that you probably wouldn't get just inside the classroom. And also a lot of the seeing like the research process and having those opportunities as an undergraduate has really prepared me for postgraduate opportunities, which can really range from anything from graduate school in any kind of fields really, while also being exposed to like other positions as well. So I feel very prepared as a senior graduating in May for any postgraduate opportunities that come my way. But, yeah.
All right, so I think we're gonna pass the torch.
Yes. Before we move on to Dr. McCarthy and the Wildlife Ecology and Conservation and Insect Ecology and Conservation majors, I've been asked by our friends in Envirothon if the students could please put their first name and state in the chat. That way our Envirothon friends can choose a winner for the door prize that exists for this evening's participation. So if you could do that, that would be great. And Dr. McCarthy, we're going to turn it over to you.
All right. Am I there? Oh, I'm gonna chat about our majors, and rather than typical PowerPoint slides, hopefully you can see that on my screen. Hopefully it's not backwards because it looks backwards to me, but Katie, I can see you. Is it reading the right direction? Oh, good. All right, so we have two majors in our department. One is wildlife ecology and conservation, and the other is insect ecology and conservation. And, you know, I love this photo because it kind of points out the important intersection between these majors, right? We have what would be considered a wildlife species with what would be considered an insect species in its mouth. And so there are a lot of tie-ins between these majors, but they're also different. I kind of like to make sure people understand where wildlife fits into the majors and where insects fits into the majors. And so I know you're all Envirothon students, and if Katie is any example, you are light years ahead of lots of other people. But just as a refresher, you know, our wildlife, we are really talking about all the wild animals that are not domesticated and aren't humans, that have vertebrae and aren't fish. So that means that leaves us with the mammals, the frogs, the reptiles, and the birds. I know there's questions like, why aren't fish in there? Why aren't insects in there? This is a long traditional reason why this is what we consider wildlife. But when you take the wildlife ecology and conservation major, these are the types of species you'll study. In the insect major, it's kind of interesting because we also break the rules a little bit. And so most of you probably know what an insect is in terms of 6 legs, etc., and probably know more than me because I'm on the wildlife focus of the department. But we also do a lot of work with other species that wouldn't necessarily be considered insects, but would be arthropods and their brethren. And so be that ticks or arachnids. I couldn't find a cool little thing of an isopod, but we've had a lot of isopod work as well. And so in our majors, we've got wildlife, we've got insects, and then in terms of the other part of the names of the majors, right, it's wildlife ecology and conservation and insect ecology and conservation. And what we're going to really focus on then is the ecology of these species. And as you know, that means how they interact with each other, but also how they interact with their environment. And then also the conservation of these species. And so, you know, conservation has so many different meanings now from maybe where it started a long time ago. It originally really just focused on wise use and was really targeted at resources that we extracted heavily, including wild resources like game animals. It's grown, but it really still relates to that concept that we would like these resources to be around long term. And so that's what we're going to do in this major, is we'll talk about how these organisms interact with their environments, and then use that to help learn and teach and discover how to conserve them. And so the courses, in order to do that in our majors, we're going to start with a bedrock of STEM classes. There's all sorts of natural science classes, physical science classes, biological classes. So that can be things like chemistry or soil science or geology or geography, botany very much. We'll have a little bit of math and a little bit of statistics, because after we go get to handle animals, we do have to analyze the data that we collect. On top of that core, there's some other classes you'll take. I'm sure you've talked about how important science communication is, and we make communication an important part of our major. And then just some general zoology classes that maybe go beyond each of the specific majors. Now, these are all just the things that get you started in either one of these majors. And then we have our core curriculum as well. And we're a department that we're growing, and we're at 13 faculty and about to increase again. And we actually offer 32 specific courses that are taught by one of our professors and one of their specialties that are shared but also split between these different majors. And these can be things ranging from ornithology and learning how to capture birds and put bands on them, but then also, the physiology of birds, the structure of birds, beekeeping, but then beyond just apiology, the other aspects of bees, wild bees, and domesticated honeybees. Mammalogy, that would be one I teach, where we're going to learn to identify 140 some species of mammals all across North America, but also definitely focused in the mid-Atlantic. That student, we're going to visit a collection behind the scenes and meet with curators and learn all about what a mammalogist does as well. There's other classes. I can't go through all 32. I'm showing you some of the fun, exciting pictures of them. We'll have you outside, setting camera traps. Actually, those are not camera traps on the bottom left. Those are students that I had learning how to set up track scent beds. And so we're sifting soil, we're going to put a scent disc in there and trying to attract animals. We'll be, again, out learning about wetlands conservation, about all sorts of flora and fauna. I'll just do a few more so I don't take up too much of our time. We have other collections for the insect interested people. We actually have a massive insect collection with hundreds of thousands of specimens. That's part of both our teaching, but then also student research. We'll learn about habitat management. And then when we can't teach something because we don't have a professor that specializes in it, and so we don't yet have a herpetologist on staff, we contract for it. And we have 2 PhD herpetologists, one who works for Delaware, the state of Delaware, as their state herpetologist, and then also one who works for the Delaware Nature Society. And what's great is they then bring in their live animals for us too, as they teach that class. Those would be part of our kind of core curriculum. I'd be happy to answer more questions about them. I just want to quickly mention too that we expand our classrooms beyond UD as well. We lead 2 study abroad programs. The top one is my program in Costa Rica, where we'll learn all about conservation of tropical biodiversity, but also some of the big debates in conservation that are going on and how they're impacting people all across the world. And then on the bottom is our program in Tanzania, which I don't know if that's your year or not, Katie, but Katie did the Tanzania program that Dr. Bowman, our chair, leads, and you'll learn all about community-based conservation. So I'll cut myself off before I talk too much, and I'll let Katie talk a little bit as well.
All right. Thank you for that great description, Dr. McCarthy. Before I start talking about the program, Dr. McCarthy briefly mentioned why fish are not included in wildlife. And I just so happen to have this book beside my desk, and I'm going to highly recommend this book to everybody, Why Fish Don't Exist, because they don't, and everybody should read this. It's just a fantastic story about ecology, the history of genetics. Highly recommend it to everybody. To get back on focus, I'm Katie Gunderman. I graduated from Delaware in 2017 in wildlife ecology and conservation. I actually didn't come to Delaware with that major. I started in environmental science, because when I was in Envirothon, I knew I loved it. I knew I loved the broad aspects of that. My like major in Envirothon was wildlife, but for whatever reason, I didn't really think that was a career at that time and point. And my spring semester of my freshman year, I ended up taking the Intro Wildlife Ecology course taught by Dr. McCarthy. And after the first class, I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I ended up making a meeting with the program director, Dr. Bowman, and then immediately switching my major later that week. So if you are interested in wildlife and know you enjoy being outside, getting your hands a little bit dirty, I highly recommend going into wildlife ecology and conservation or insect ecology and conservation. One of the greatest aspects I've had and been able to take past my undergraduate experiences have been those hands-on experiences you get in a wildlife degree. Once you get through those core classes, which, hold on, I got a question here. I was in the Pennsylvania Envirothon, so we competed at the county level first and then further at the state level. I competed in 2009 to 2013, I think. But in the wildlife degree program, after you do your core classes, right around junior year, senior year, you're in much smaller classes, getting hands-on experiences in the wide breadth. Dr. McCarthy showed all of the really fun photos, and that's a lot of what you get to do kind of as you move up in the degree. Another great aspect, I think, of a wildlife degree is usually the programs are a lot smaller. Dr. McCarthy mentioned this program is growing. They offer 32 courses, have 13 full-time professors. When I left, I felt like I could go to any of the wildlife related professors and ask them for things. They knew who I was. Everybody, there was like 30 people in my cohort. We all worked together. By the end, it was really great camaraderie. And these programs do help you develop the skills you need to go out and find a job afterwards. I personally went and worked as a wildlife research technician for a few years before coming back to graduate school because I knew I wanted to do research. But you also have the skills to go work in habitat management, to go try to start a career at a state agency or at the federal level as an intro biologist position. And I cannot highly recommend a wildlife degree more if you are interested, and I'm happy to answer any other questions. And is there anything I missed, Kyle?
No, but I wish you had a picture of you holding lynx up in Alaska that I couldn't find one to show.
I do have one, but I don't have it with me, not like my
all right. No, thanks, Katie. That was good. And we can pass the torch on.
Thank you so much, both of you. And Dr. Mung and Maggie, you're up to talk about sustainable food systems, if you will, please.
Great, thank you, Noelle. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Dr. Qinwu Meng, and I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Plant and Soil Sciences. The name of the department indicates we do both plant science and soil science. But today I am particularly going to talk about one of our majors called sustainable food systems. Next slide, please. And I just want to start by saying that in our major, there are a lot of hands-on learning opportunities. We learn by doing it in our greenhouse facilities. So these pictures show some of our students in my hydroponic food production course just in the past spring semester last year. And we were growing a lot of leafy greens and culinary herbs. And eventually we were able to sell most of the crops to a local restaurant on Main Street. And in our program, we have students learn about everything that goes into producing food in a sustainable and environmentally responsible manner, right? So think about during the pandemic, sometimes when you went to the grocery store, and if you want to pick up some leafy greens for your salad, you will realize that, oh, I have some empty shelves, right? We had serious problems with our food supply chain. And if you buy a bag of lettuce, let's say now in the grocery store, do you know where that food comes from? Right? Is it from where you live or is it from somewhere far? Most of the time, a lot of us don't know where our food comes from, and we have lost our connection with the food that we eat. And that's also a really big problem. And in fact, in the US, over 90% of the lettuce that we eat comes from only 2 states, California and Arizona. So we're here in Delaware on the East Coast, but most of the lettuce that we have in the stores is all the way from the West Coast. And we have to think about the transportation, the fuel cost that all go into transporting and carrying the lettuce over across the whole country. And it's not very friendly to the environment. And we're trying to do something different, and that is local, sustainable food production. Like, can we create the environment, no matter where you are, no matter when it is, to grow food all year round, right? We're just out of the winter here, and it's been really cold. So it's not really realistic to grow food outside in the field. But if we have our plants in a greenhouse environment where we have all the environmental factors dialed in to precise levels that the plants can thrive and provide a lot of biomass and nutritional value for us, it's great. Next slide, please. So in this program of sustainable food systems, you'll learn about how we can grow food in a protected environment and how we can control the different environmental factors, how we can learn about the soil science, right? How we can manage the nutrients for the plants, and how we can minimize the resource input, such as light for energy and heat for energy as well. And you'll learn about how we can combat some of the problems that we're faced with in modern agriculture, such as plant diseases and pest problems, right? So the ultimate goal is for us to learn about different things in plant physiology, ecology, and even food justice, to think about how we can create a food production system from start to finish in the society. And in this picture, we're looking at our hands-on learning environment, our greenhouse. And besides classroom learning, you will also be able to work with our leading faculty members on some research projects. So in this picture, we have my undergraduate student, Ian Kelly, who is a sophomore in our sustainable food systems major. And he's currently working on a project with me in our greenhouse. And we work with both food crops and floriculture crops in the greenhouse environment. And next slide, please. Besides the greenhouse environment, we also do research and learning in a completely enclosed environment. And we call this indoor vertical farming. And we can grow food without sunlight and without soil. So in this picture, we have a freshman student, Stephanie Severin, from our college, doing a summer internship research in my lab with another PhD student as her mentor. And she was doing a fantastic job growing tomato seedlings and leafy green seedlings under different light conditions. And what she wanted to do was to figure out how we can have the most out of the plant by using the minimum amount of energy from the lights. Right. Next slide, please. Here's another undergraduate student working with me. He actually majored in environmental engineering, but he developed a huge passion for growing plants using technology indoors. And he was helping one of my graduate students with her research to grow hydroponic pepper plants under different combinations of light wavelengths. If you combine blue, green, red, and firelight at different ratios, you can have different growth outcomes in terms of how fast plants grow and how much nutritional value or how much flavor that they can pack. Right? So our goal is to produce the most nutritious, flavorful, and productive plants using the minimum amount of energy with a minimum impact on the environment. Next slide, please. So on the Earth, we can create indoor vertical farms right in the city, so we can have local production and have fresh food delivered to the consumers without spending a lot of energy in transportation of the food. We can apply the same techniques of environmental control in the space. So in this slide, we're looking at pictures where astronauts on the International Space Station grow peppers to the left or flowers like zinnia on the top right. And astronauts have been working really hard to figure out how we can grow fresh and nutritious food to support long-term exploration missions in the future. And this is an active research area that a lot of our undergraduate students are involved in as well. So thinking about the future, we're not only going to tackle the problems that we're faced with on the Earth, and especially in urban areas, but also thinking about how we can grow food in the future in space. And in terms of our career aspects, with the Sustainable Food Systems major, you're able to get the skills that you need in plant biology, horticulture, soil science, plant pathology, plant activism, sustainability, and environmental management to really be successful in the public sector, in the research field, in academia, or in the industry if you want to start your own food production business in the local area. So that's all I have to share for now, and I'll pass it on to our undergraduate student, Maggie, to hear about her perspective.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. So once again, I'm Maggie. Like Katie, I didn't actually come into the school as a sustainable food systems major. I ended up transferring into it as a double major last semester. I originally came in as an interdisciplinary student in the Ag and Natural Resources major, but I was wandering down the plant science hallway one day and I saw, sustainable food systems, and I really decided that this was like the place for me. What's really great about the sustainable food systems major is it's kind of like the intersection between agriculture and plant science and kind of an engineering approach. I like to call it kind of like applied agriculture a lot, because you're not really just sitting in a classroom laboratory looking at your bio and your chem science. You're also in the greenhouse, in the gardens, you're in the dial lab with Dr. Mong. You're studying how you can take different approaches and look at food systems. So what's great about this major is you can take classes from every aspect of the College of Ag, and it applies to what you're learning. So you're taking your plant and soil sciences, you're taking your food sciences, your animal sciences, your basic STEM classes, and they're all applying to how can we improve our food sustainability? How can we feed those extra 2 billion people within the next 50 years? What's also great about just the plant science department in general is you're very able to have flexibility within your major. We have a large electives credits, so you're able to easily pick up a second major, minor, so you can have a concentration and really shape what you think you want to do and put it into the aspect of sustainability. I think that's all I have for now. Hopefully I'll get more experience as I get out into the greenhouse and everything, but I will pass the torch on to whoever's next.
Great. Thank you, Maggie. I just want to add one more thing, that in my background, I was able to grow a lot of leafy greens just on my windowsill using sunlight and some plastic containers like milk jars and pickle jars. You can do it really anywhere, and our home is a perfect controlled environment where we can grow some food.
Thank you very much, Dr. Meng, and thank you, Maggie. Thank you, all of our participants. I just put in the chat my contact information, my email address. If you're interested in learning more about any of these majors or connecting with any of the individuals this evening, I'll certainly put you in touch with any of our panelists. And I'm hoping that you've been able to see, based on what everyone has said this evening, that we have so many opportunities at the University of Delaware for you to turn your passion for the environment into a college major that is interesting and engaging, hands-on, and applicable, really applicable to the future, whether that's your future in terms of a professional future or graduate school, or your desire, I'll bet you, to impact the world. I can't imagine that you're involved in Envirothon without having a good grasp of the bigger picture and a deep desire to make a difference. And I think that engaging in any of these programs, any of the 13 majors we offer at the University of Delaware and the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources provides you with that kind of an opportunity. So with that spiel, I'll hop off my soapbox and open up for discussion or for chat if anyone has any questions. Let's see what kinds of questions you have and how we can answer them for you.
All I know is I want to find out how to grow those leafy greens on my windowsill. That's pretty good.
Thanks, Kyle. And I see someone in the attendees raising their hand. I don't know if they have a question.
Looks like Zoe, yeah.
Anyone in the Q&A? I don't see any questions just yet. That's okay, Zoe.
Well, I don't have the Q&A button. They must have a special button. To ask a question, please use the Q&A button.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What are the primary careers that each of your 3 departments that students go on to right after they graduate? What's the first type of job that they have after school generally?
Oh, I'll start. Quite often, one of the keys to getting into grad school in wildlife ecology and also insect ecology is hands-on experience. And we'll definitely encourage our undergrads and help them find internships during the summers, but getting more of that hands-on experience is what's going to get you into that grad program, because our grad programs, grad students in wildlife ecology and conservation and insect ecology and conservation are paid. Their tuition's waived, they're part of a project, they're part of a team, and so it's almost like being hired, and so they're pretty competitive. And so I would say pretty commonly you would start out as a technician, which is, although it sounds not romantic, it actually truly is, because that's typically when you get to be out there like Katie was in Alaska and helping catch Canada lynx and hold them while you put radio colors on them, etc. But then that's just a stepping stone to the next steps.
I'll go next. So for the sustainable food systems major, just like Maggie said, there are so many things that you can integrate into this major and make it your own. And you learn about all aspects of plant production in controlled environments or outside in the field. You also learn about food justice. You also learn about environmental management. And I would say the first role, if the student is really interested in plant production, it will be to become a hydroponic practitioner or greenhouse grower or indoor farmer working for one of those greenhouse or indoor farming operations, especially in the urban area. If you're interested in more of the technical aspects or problem solving aspects in environmental management, you can also consider becoming a horticultural technician. And if you're interested in the business aspect, you can think about how to become a food entrepreneur. And if you're really passionate about how we can empower local communities in food security, you can become an agriculturalist in community-supported agriculture as well.
And for environmental and resource economics, I would say that the number one stepping stone after graduation is to get into sort of an environmental and economic consulting role, often as something like a research assistant, where you're going to be getting hands-on work, doing the sort of valuation projects that go into that companies use when they're thinking about different projects. That's a number of a big role as well. Getting into land management and land conservation organizations, and using your sort of that natural resource, especially if you're on the natural resource management side. You've learned a bit about land management while you're here, and you can get into that conservation field. And then a lot of students do end up going back and getting a master's degree, again, either in economics or environmental studies, or in public policy or environmental management.
Thank you very much. We have a couple of questions in the chat. I'm going to answer them out of order. The first one, I'll come back to. The second one, Darby, I am thrilled that you find our programs interesting. I happen to find them extremely interesting myself, and I wish that I would have known these existed when I was an undergraduate. So yes, our application deadline has passed. However, if you're really interested, please send me an email and we'll talk about applying to the University of Delaware and what that might look like to you and what your options might be. And again, my email, nwoolhar@udel.edu. It's in the chat. And Emmy, I'm going to come back to your question. It's kind of broad. Emmy's question is, what's your favorite thing to do? So I hope you don't mind that I'm going to kind of skim that down a little bit and pose it to our individual students who are here this evening. Maggie and Katie and Laura. Katie, obviously, as an alumna, how about if you answer what your favorite class has been or is in your department? I think that might be an interesting thing for all of us to hear about. So Maggie, let's start with you.
I actually answered this question for Mr. LaPenta the other day, so I'm a little bit prepared for it. This is great. So far, my two favorite classes have been tied between PLSE 270, which is biotechnology, science and socioeconomic issues. And I think it's AGRI 224, it's One Health, which is taught by Dr. Arsenal. Both of them are very not what you like automatically think of when you think about agriculture. One Health was just so much fun because we got to tackle every single like modern current issue in agriculture. We got to look at the environment side, the animal side, the people side. So we got to look at these global agriculture issues and kind of hit it from how it affects every single aspect of, you know, global food production. Biotechnology, I'm taking this semester with Dr. Sparks. It's been so much fun because I never even thought that I'd be taking like a genetics class because I'm not that great at lab sciences. But we're learning about like mostly like genetic editing in like the crop genome. And it's just so interesting. There's so many ways to edit a genome and just produce these cultivars that nobody would ever expect to have these traits. And they're just so interesting. I love this curriculum. I cannot say enough about the classes I'm taking. And I'll pass the torch on to whoever wants to answer next.
Laura, how about you? You're up. Can you tell us what your most favorite class has been?
Yeah, sure. I think I also can only really attribute it to two. So my first favorite, I would say, is the APEC 100 class, which is really popular within this major. And you probably take it within your first or second year at the university. But it really goes into the broad concepts of just like what sustainable development is, how it's applied to different policies, and different situations, I guess, like throughout the world. And we talk about like the sustainable development goals, while also introducing kind of those economic concepts that you build on more in a lot of your future classes as well. So I think gaining that initial background was really interesting for me and really got me interested in pursuing the major and pursuing different like research opportunities within the college. And I'm actually a TA for that course now, so it just shows how much I love it. And then I would say my second favorite class was probably APEC 324. I think it's 324, but it's a resource economics class. And that really builds on kind of like the entire concepts of this major of taking like valuation strategies and taking like different economic concepts and applying it to environmental problems. So it was really interesting to kind of like learn about those different projects and how it can be applied to projects in the future that you can apply to really any job in the future. So yeah, that's probably my favorite.
Great, thank you so much. And Katie, tell us about your favorite UD class.
Like everybody else, I'm going to choose more than one. I definitely enjoyed the herpetology class that was offered it's offered every other spring. And we just got to go on a lot of field trips. The two professors who come and teach that, as Dr. McCarthy was just saying, we don't have full-time professors in herpetology yet, but they would come on, they put in so much work to class. You got to handle a lot of reptiles and amphibians. So that was really cool. My other field-related class that I really enjoyed was our wildlife research techniques. It was taken our senior year, and we got to, as the title says, just get a lot of hands-on experience. We got to learn orienteering, small mammal trapping, different habitat management stuff, vegetation surveys, and then writing this big semester-long project kind of at the end. And I'm also going to choose one more because I feel like it kind of is like the two kind of extremes of wildlife. Like I said, with wildlife research techniques, we were hands-on. The other one I took was a graduate level course taught by Dr. McCarthy, which I might butcher the title, but it was like wildlife quantitative ecology. I'm sorry if I messed that up, or spatial analysis. It might have been spatial analysis, but like Dr. McCarthy said, you do have to have this understanding of statistics and analysis to find the answers of the research questions you're looking for. And while I started my career as a wildlife research technician and I was out in the field every day working, like getting my hands on animals or in the dirt, setting cameras, track plate surveys, I now am a quantitative ecologist, and that's what my graduate degree is focusing on. And I will most likely not be going too much into the field anymore, but I have a deep love for statistics. And so you should hopefully find some love and respect for statistics and GIS and coding too in wildlife.
Great, thank you so much. Are there any additional questions that are out there from our participants this evening? If there are, put them in the Q&A. We would love to answer any questions that you might have about our programs, about the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, about the University of Delaware. We're happy to let you know what we know. If
Want me to answer that one?
If any of the students who are here this evening, if you would like to, if you haven't already provided your email address, we would love to send you additional information and get you on our mailing list for additional information about the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources and our fabulous 13 majors. So if you want to connect with us and give us your email address, that would be great. I promise we'll send you a lot of information.
There's a question I'll answer in the chat. And in terms of taking wildlife classes to help you pursue a career being a veterinarian, yeah, it's interesting. Another major in our college is pre-veterinary medicine. That being said, some students who want to focus on wildlife as a veterinarian do take our major, and then we tie in the extra courses that would be required. For instance, biochemistry is not something required to be a wildlife biologist, but is required to be to get into vet school. And so we help you pick those courses. Now, also we've had students double major in both wildlife ecology and conservation and pre-vet, and that takes a little extra work. But if you're one of those students that can handle that, then that really helps open those opportunities. And I know several of our students that have done that are now veterinarians, and some of them do work on wildlife as veterinarians too.
Are there any additional questions? Dr. Heinzelman, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, as an Envirothon alum, what's the best advice that you could give to a student who is a really active Envirothon participant about figuring out how to take that passion for the environment to the next level and apply it to something at the college level?
Well, I mean, I think it comes down to, following your interests. That's what it was for me. It was figuring out that I loved studying and learning about the environment, and I loved economics, and figuring out that there was such a thing as environmental economics was a life-altering discovery. And so I think that's what it can be for a lot of people, is figuring out what it is that you love about Envirothon, and what is what other things do you love? How can you combine this into the next step? And don't assume that the thing that you love doesn't exist as a career or as a field of study. It might be out there. It might not be one of the top 5 majors at every institution in the world. But that doesn't mean it's not out there for you to find, and you should follow that and see where it leads.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to everyone at the University of Delaware. How exciting to hear everyone's stories and to learn more about the wonderful opportunities available through the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources. The University of Delaware has some fascinating majors and such a wide range of possibilities for hands-on learning in so many areas. And thank you again to everyone for coming and being on the webinar tonight, getting to see the College and Career Showcase.
Absolutely, would love to see some of you in the future. If you have any interest in coming to visit the University of Delaware, yet again, I'll tell you to reach out to me using my email address. I would be more than happy to set you up with an individual tour of the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources and a faculty meeting if you'd enjoy that. So hopefully we'll look forward to seeing you in person at U of D.